Yes, there is sound and yes, there is video. I hope. You people are out there. You should be able to hear me at this point. And can you hear me? I know you're not muted, so.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started on our fun little discussion tonight. What we're doing tonight is I'm doing biofeedback for beginners, and that's what it is, beginners. And we'll talk about that as we go through. So with the usual, I don't know how many people here have been to uh, my sessions before, but I do basic stuff. That's what I'm here for, is to get you started. So we are not going
Great.
to cover everything there is in the world about biofeedback. That's not the whole point. The point is that, okay, I need to go do biofeedback. Never done it before. What do I need to do? That's what we do. Okay, so that in mind. All right. So we're gonna do this is the session overview. It's a who am I? We're gonna talk about what feedback is, the types of feedback. We're gonna spend most of our time in the demo. Then we're gonna do. I'll go through the steps, and I have a couple of handouts for that, which everybody will have access to. So that to make sure that when you're doing this the first time, the second, or third time, here are the steps you need to go through. And if it doesn't work, that's because you didn't follow the steps. Because well, when I typed them up and I checked them again, they all worked for me earlier. Unfortunately, when you're the author of stuff, if there's an awful lot of stuff you assume, but hopefully there won't be any of that in there. We'll talk a little bit about reverse lookup because that's always a hot topic, and we'll do some Q&A at the end. Quickly, the who am I stuff. Anybody who's been in my stuff before has seen this. You know, I have an information technology background in hardware and software. I've got a bunch of spooky equipment since 2018. And last year, in the third quarter, I added my central plasma and I added a scaler this year. So, you know, for the most part, I've been doing Generator X and XMs for most of the time. And you're welcome to contact me through email, Telegram channel, or Messenger if that's what you prefer to do. Why do I do these sessions? Well, what I found is there's a lot of growth, a lot of people very interested in the spooky software and the hardware and all that. And an awful lot of people that start into this, they find spooky as being very challenging. And it's very busy and there's a lot of things, but it really isn't that challenging. I mean, it's really not that much different than if you're just typing a simple letter in Word. And yeah, there's actually a lot of steps that you go through, but that you don't think about anymore because you've done them. You know, how do you cut and paste, for instance? You know, there's a lot of steps in that. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to I'm trying to bring it to the point where you can start off. So you're going to find that while the screens are really busy and it looks a little daunting, it's not bad once you start doing it. It really is not. Okay, so and I'm one of my abilities is I'm really good at working with people who have no technical ability at all, and I can bring technology to their level. Actually, one of the things I do, and I'm retired, by the way, and I live in central Mexico. That's where I am. One of the things I do is on Tuesdays, I spend 4 hours at the local American Legion. And what I do there is a walk-up technical help desk. People can bring up anything, and I help them figure out what to do. You know, this last week I had a 90-year-old woman, but the font was too big on her phone, and she had no idea what to do about it. And so I helped her with that. I shrink the font down. So I work with a lot of people that have zero technical knowledge. That's just the nature of what I do. Like I said, I do tech. I can help interpret things. I'm not a practitioner though. You know, if you, hey, I have cancer, I need to do this, or this isn't working for me. I can read the book. I can tell you what I do a search, that sort of stuff. But I, I don't have the experience of that. If you need serious help from a practitioner, I suggest Brad Johnson. That's his email. Send him an email. He works with everybody. He's worked with lots and lots of people. I mean, he's helped over 400 people in his practitioner practice. So he's seen an awful lot, and he's pretty good. So actually, I think he's a good practitioner. So that's what that's what I'd suggest. Let's see, I'm in the chat. Unsure how to get baseline. I'll talk about that hopefully. slowly. Okay, I'm just looking at this at the chat. All right, now, so back to my. All right. So what is spooky biofeedback? That's the first thing we have to consider in here. What spooky biofeedback is you run a program and it does a frequency sweep. It goes from 48,000, I think, to 1.8 million in those frequencies. And it writes down in its little background, says, okay, what was my response to this frequency? I did this frequency, and how did the body respond? And then at the end, it provides you with a list of the top 10 frequencies that responded in order of how much they responded. And then it allows you to save and name that list that it created. Like I said, though, it's doing pathogens. That's what it does. What it doesn't do, it doesn't detect non-pathogens. Oh, your kidneys have given out. It can't detect that. The way the spooky biofeedback works is by the pathogen, meaning virus or bacteria or whatever, responding to that. Kidneys not working doesn't respond. Okay, lack of vitamins doesn't respond. So it won't do that for you. But it's really good at, oh, you have a bacterial infection or you have whatever. It works well for that. So let me look at something really quick. All right, so here. All right, so there's a number of different types of feedback you can do. And basically what we're talking about here, because this is the limited one, can I get you guys to, Ann and Deborah, would you mind muting? There's a little bit of background noise and you can always unmute when you have a question or whatever. And that's not a problem. I can, that must be from Deborah. Deborah, can you mute, please?
I'm not sure how to.
Are you on a phone or a computer?
I'm on a phone.
You're on a phone. Tap the phone in the middle of it somewhere, and it'll bring up a little menu at either at the top or bottom, and you want to stop audio.
Okay.
Ah, there you go. See, at least you've learned about how to do that in Zoom. Okay, so so this is a simple getting started. What we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about generator X, and we're going to talk about contact mode. That is exactly what we are talking about today. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And yes, there's sample digitizers, there's a pulse scaler. We'll briefly talk about them at the end. But what I'm showing you is generator contact mode. That's how, well, actually, that's how 90% of biofeedbacks are done anyway. And that's the best place to start. And yes, all these other things that you can move on to those later. But that's what we're talking about at this point. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, since this is TENS pad. So here's a picture here of a generator X. Notice that it's an old picture because it's not generator X Pro. And this is the way you're going to do this. Your TENS pads go into the out one of either generator. This happens to be G1 on this. And you have this nifty little set of cables here. They plug into the TENS pads here. Just as a point, I'll give you a little background. These TENS pads, Spooky sent you some. You can buy TENS pads anywhere. The ones I use now, I got from Amazon. You can go down to your local pharmacy and probably get them. You don't have to. What was that?
We only see you. We don't see what you're talking about.
You don't see my screen.
Negative. We see you.
It should be shared. Let's stop the share. And let's turn this back on. So what about now?
Yes.
Okay. Wonder how that got lost. All right. Well, we'll move on from here. So, as I said, here's a picture of the generator X and the TENS pads and the cable that connects them. That's what you need, and plus a computer, in order to do your biofeedback. Now, I actually have a video that I'm going to show. It's a 2-minute video that shows TENS pad placement. That's pretty straightforward. I mean, for the most part, if you're going to do with generator X and that sort of stuff, you're going to be scanning an area. So if you have a sore arm or you have cancer and you have a tumor or whatever, you tend to you scan a certain area. Frankly, the spooky biofeedback isn't that great at scanning your whole body for everything. In the past, it may have been a little better, but it was a lot more work. So most of the time, you're trying to scan something something specific. So, that's what it's gonna do, and then I'm gonna show you the, let's see, I wanna show this, and we're gonna go into advanced. Let me go find this. Johnson. Should be up here somewhere. Oh, that's right, I put it this way. I actually organized this, now I can't find it, let's see. It should be in. Access. There it is. So we're gonna watch this for a minute. Play. Good night.
Hello everyone, this video will show you how to place TENS pads while doing biofeedback using Generator X. It is better to have the electrodes as close as possible across the problem area so that the signal can pass more bad pathogen cells. And bisect the area of interest. If it is the liver, place the pads at the front and back of the liver. If it is the kidneys, you could place the pads either across one, front and back, or across both, side to side. And this is for the abdomen, calf pain, shin pain, lower back, sciatica, upper back, elbow, hip and glutes, knee, rear thigh, quad, shoulder. For a general scan, place the pads on the left and right side of the torso, midway between the hips and the shoulders. The signal will go through the gut, which is a major organ, reflecting the state of your body. Many pathogens reside there. For head and neck areas, do not place the TENS pads directly, because your two most important organs reside there, the thyroid and your brain. Use the back of both shoulders. It is not a good idea to place TENS pads at the right wrist and left ankle for a scan using Generator X. The results will not be as precise as if the TENS pads are close. There are two reasons. A. The signal strengths are passing through many healthy tissues, overshadowing the signal of the pathogens. B. The strength of the signals is reduced because the human body has resistance to electrical signals. TENS pads placement warning. The safety of our users is our top priority. Please do not use TENS pads above the neckline or across the heart. Serious injury can occur if TENS pads are not being used as suggested. If people wish to experiment with placement,
I guess that's all I have. Okay. So let me go back to and share my presentation. Okay, you should be seeing the, yep, you do. Okay, so now that I wanted to show you that video because I didn't have the cool things they had, and I learned stuff by watching the video as well. I've heard that you shouldn't run the TENS pads through joints, like on opposite sides of the knee. You want to do front to front or front to back or back to back, I guess. That sort of thing. Anyway, so that's where you're supposed to be placing these things depending on what problem you have. Does anybody have any questions about that before we go on? Did it make sense? Okay. I guess it didn't. Let me check the chat. All right, then we'll go on. All right, so now we've counted the demo here. Just stop share. Okay. So what you should be seeing now, yep, you should, is my is one of my test machines here. And so and this is the presets. Notice this is the January 15th version of the software. They've just finally released the June one. It has a couple interesting features in it. but nothing that impressed me so far enough for me to actually think about going to it. So I'm not planning on using it anytime soon. Okay, so here we are in this, and am I going to be able to get to everything? Hopefully, it's down these. All right. So when you're doing it, actually, when you do almost anything with Spooky, the first thing that you want to do before you is you want to be able to load some programs. When you do that, you need to go to the Control tab, and you need to decide which generator you're going to use, because they need to be stopped before you go on. It's really important to do that. If they're not stopped, then what happens when you try to override them? It doesn't work out, and it doesn't actually load your program. And naturally, you don't get any errors for that, and you're just really surprised it's not working. So the first thing I do is I always go to the Control tab. I select the generator I want. I make sure it's stopped. This one's pink, so it's not a problem. Everything's good with it. All right, so now from there, I'm going to attach the TENS pads. So the TENS pads, these are my TENS pads that I have here. I'm not going to attach them here because I don't, I'm not going to take much time, and I'll show you about that. But these TENS pads are going to go wherever you want. I actually did a stomach one earlier today, and we're going to use that results in this presentation. And those connect to this nifty little cable, BNC on one end, red and black on the other end. And the TENS pads simply slide on here and here, just like that, and you can attach them to you. I'll point out a few things for you before we go on from here. Number one, you can reuse TENS pads. That's not a problem until they get not sticky. There are some ideas of how you can wash them if you really want to. That's sort of debatable. And, obviously if they seem damaged or something, you should replace them. TENS pads are actually very inexpensive, so you don't have to worry about that. So, it's not a huge deal. It's good to have a bunch of extra ones on hand just in case you need them. So now, once I have my TENS pads on, and I've hooked it to generator 6 in this case, now we're going to go off to presets. Here we are in presets. Now, I want to do a biofeedback. I talked about this before. What we're going to do here, because it's a simple version, and this is aimed at people doing your first biofeedback. You're going to go to the generator X, and we're going to do the general biofeedback scan. Now notice there's a bunch of stuff in here, and I may briefly discuss them later, but that's not the purpose of this particular presentation. I actually have a reference to one of Brad Johnson's biofeedback sessions they did in August, which is very exhaustive. It covers all this stuff. But my opinion is if you're a newbie, you don't want to cover too many of those things all at once. Get used to doing the basics, and then you can expand from there. Now, obviously, if there's something else you absolutely need to do, learn about that. But not for 99% of us, this is where you're going to start, with a general biofeedback scan. From there, like everything else we do from presets, I'm going to go back to the control screen, control tab, and I'm going to overwrite the generator. So I clicked on that, and I'm going to click on generator 6. And what we're going to see here in generator 6, back up there. Generator 6, when we loaded generator 6 down here in the biofeedback area, this is going to run for 18 minutes and 54 seconds. And that's what it currently runs. And through the years, I actually went through all the ones since 2017 to see if they changed, and some did significantly. But the last bunch of releases have run for almost 19 minutes. That's how long it's going to take to run this. And so, and that's for the general biofeedback scan. If you're running one of the other kinds of scans, that's a whole nother matter. And that's beyond what we're talking about right now. So here we are, it's all loaded, and now we can do a scan. And one of the things scan does, number one, the generator that's scanning turns purple, okay? So it's doing something. And so it's running along right now. And notice there's no frequencies in here because it's actually going from here. It's going to go from 41,000 to 1.8 million. And it's still at 41,000 because it's ramping up at the moment. In a minute, it will get done with that, and it's going to kick off from there. And it'll start incrementing the frequency. But it has to settle down first, and there it goes. So now it is scanning all those frequencies, and it's going to keep track of how your body responds to each of these frequencies it does. Notice it doesn't stay in that frequency very long, but it's going to take almost 19 minutes to get through the frequency list. One of the other things that happens during this time is any generators that we're running, it's going to pause. So it's going to stop running well, it pauses them. So when it gets done after the 19 minutes, those generators will resume. So you don't have to do any of that, but you need to be aware that that's going to happen. So, and don't be alarmed when that does. And I can't remember what color that is when they pause. Yellow, I think. And so, but that's what happens to your other generators. So you can only run one biofeedback at a time on a given computer, no matter how many generators you have. It'll only do one because it pauses everything else. And by the way, it pauses everything else to try to minimize the electrical noise it's picking up and that sort of stuff. It doesn't want anything bad going on. Now, if you're running another Spooky on another computer, don't worry about that. That's not an issue. Okay. So it's going to run along very nicely, and eventually it's going to get done. And when it gets done, I want to stop this. What you're going to see, this is one of the things that's sort of in here. One of the things in this analyze button down here, you can actually bring up all the ones you've ever run. It has a history of that. In this case, I'm going to do my stomach one. And this is what it would do when the one I got done, it pops this up right here. It says, here's the frequencies I found, and here's the size they were and all that sort of stuff. And so now this is the 10s that I found. From here, I'm going to do a save. Again, we will talk about reverse lookup in a while, but we're talking basics here. We're going to do a save. And I'm going to call it BFB. But one of the things that you should put in here is you need to have a name in here or something, so you can figure this out later. That's important because you're going to go do a search on this stuff. And if you don't know what you called it, if it just has the BFB and the date and time, that doesn't tell you a whole lot. And I can show you, let me save this. And yes, I want to save it. If I go look in all this stuff, these are all the ones I've run, and how far back does it go? Because this is, I have stuff all the way back to 2023 in here. Yep, even further back than that. Back when I had shingles in 2021. And so, you know, I've done all that stuff, and it keeps track of that, and I can rebuild those if I want to, but it's tracked in there. So the history is there. So if something happens, that's you can always go back and use those in there. Again, what's in there is it's a list of all the frequencies it ran and what the response was to those frequencies. And then it goes through when I say analyze, and it'll find the top 10 and show me the top 10 and allow me to save it. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, so we've successfully done a biofeedback. Now what do I do? Well, that's great. I ran a biofeedback. So now what we want to do is use the biofeedback frequencies. So the thing is, as I pointed out, biofeedback finds pathogens. So what do you want to do with pathogens? I don't want to caress them. I don't want to pet them. I want to kill them. That's the whole idea. That's why you're doing this. So how do we do that? Again, we're going to choose the generator we want. I could use 6 if I want, if that's what I choose to do, or any other generator I want. In this case, we're going to choose 6. It's stopped. Again, that's the first thing you do. We're going to go to presets, and then we're going to go to home. And we're going to go down to shell empty presets. And I've talked about this before. Presets are really neat because presets are self-contained. I can send you a preset that has all kinds of custom stuff I've done, and you don't have any of the custom stuff. Doesn't matter. It's all in the preset. The exception to that are the shells. The shells are actually empty. Why are they empty? They're empty because I'm going to put frequencies in from the programs tab. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to pick a shell preset. I'm going to pick remote because this is a simple one, and this is what most people are going to do, at least initially, a remote one. And what I recommend, unless you know exactly what you're doing, and this works well most of the time, is I go down to killing RJW. So that's a killing. R is remote. The JW is John White. So he's the author and the maintainer of this particular one. So that's the one I loaded. Notice there's no programs in it. That's because it's a shell. If I go to programs now, and then I do, hang on a second, I need to turn this back. I'll leave it like it is. Nope, at least gotta turn this on. Most of the time what we have on is everything. I'll regret that later. I'll regret that now, because now it has to load them all. And then if I go look for BFB, I'll show them all, but that's okay. And then at the bottom, because that's the way this thing loads, at the bottom of the list, this is the one I just created just a minute ago. So I've just created that. This is the biofeedback, the 10 frequencies that were the most common. if I click on that, click on plus, it's now in loaded programs, just like it's supposed to be. So now I can actually do something with this, which I'm going to do. So I've now loaded a shell preset. I put frequencies into that shell preset. Now I can go to control, and now I can overwrite a generator like that. So it's now in generator 6 or whatever generator I want. Again, this is a killing remote, and I can hit start. And it's going to go load the stuff up, and it's going to run forever because it's a remote, and that's the default for remotes. And it's going to go through every one of these frequencies. It'll do 3 minutes apiece, and it'll go through all 10 frequencies. And then after 30 minutes, it'll start over, and it'll run this forever. Okay. That is how you do a basic biofeedback. Like I said, there's a bunch of other biofeedbacks. This is where you start, okay? What I want to do now is I want to go back to my presentation, if I can find it. Okay, so now, these are the actual steps, and I have a PDF, it's in here, and I have a PDF as well that you could print out that says, here are the steps to do biofeedback. Click on the control tab, click on the generator you want to use. Don't forget, you have to use a GX generator for this. There's a way to do this on the blue generators. GX is the silver generator. And I may talk about that briefly, but for this presentation, and for most biofeedback, you're going to use the silver GX generator. That's what you use. I'm going to click stop on the generator I want to use. I'm going to attach 10 pads to the area to be scanned. Again, area is important. The closer they are together, the better off they are, because you just want to scan that area. I'm going to attach the cable directly to the out one port. You're not going to use a boost for this. You shouldn't. So as you go to the out one port on the generator, you're going to do it on. I'm going to click on the preset tab. I'm going to click on biofeedback. I'm going to select generator X. Then I'm going to select generator X general feedback scan. Then I'm going to the control tab and overwrite the generator. And then I'm going to select the generator to run on again and hit scan. And it's going to take about 19 minutes in the January 2024 software. And that's also true of the June software as well. It's still about 19 minutes. So when that scan gets done, it's going to display the top 10 frequencies that responded. I'm going to click on the save icon. I'm going to type in a name and hit the save icon again. And it's going to say, do you want to save it? You say yes. And voila, you've now created a biofeedback set of frequencies. So now that we have frequencies, what do we do with them? Well, we want to use them to kill whatever it found. That's the whole idea. So now to do that, we're going to click on the control tab. We're going to click on the generator and click stop. We're going to go and click on the presets tab. We're going to click on the green home icon. We're going to click on shell empty presets. We're going to click on the delivery method. So we use remote as opposed to contact or plasma or whatever. We're going to click on killing RJW. Always use a killing one when using a biofeedback, always. Click on the programs tab, search on BFB, click on the program we just created, and hopefully you remember the name because that's the one you want. We're going to click on the plus sign underneath it. Click on the control tab, click on the overwrite, click on the generator, and click start. It looks like a lot of steps. It's not. It's like, if I want to copy something in Word, I have to go find it. I have to hold down the mouse and left click and drag the thing around, let go, and then right click and do copy. I mean, and anybody who's ever done that in Word, yeah, there's actually a lot of steps if you actually write them down, but it becomes second nature. So there aren't, it looks like a lot of steps. It's really not. It's really straightforward. And there's not a whole lot of things you have to do to make this. Okay. Having said that, we're going to talk about reverse lookup. Reverse lookup is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Spooky because people want to use it as a diagnostic tool. Well, what's wrong with me? I want to find out what kind of cancer I have, or do I have cancer, or what's wrong with my foot, or whatever. So the way reverse, and Spooky doesn't do that, by the way, but the way reverse lookup works is we did a scan and it found 10 frequencies, 10 frequencies, right? So it has 10 frequencies. And what it does is it looks through the program database of the 60,000 programs I have in there and says, hey, are any of the frequencies in here close to what, what this frequency is, the frequency 1 is of the 10. And anything that's very, very close, it'll say, okay, maybe it's this. And so, maybe you're scanning your foot and it says you have athlete's foot. Actually, maybe you're scanning your foot and it says there's something wrong with your knee, which is a pretty neat trick to sign. Well, scanning my knee, but that can happen because all it's doing is finding programs that also share these frequencies. That's why you can't trust it as a diagnostic tool, because it isn't a diagnostic tool. It will show you some of the other stuff, and I'll run it occasionally, really just for grins, because I really don't care what it says. What I care about is it found these pathogens. I want them to die. And so I just literally, I put them into a killing preset and I run it. That's my approach to that. And sometimes there's a few instances where reverse feedback is a good idea. That's beyond what we're doing here. And really, that's if your practitioner tells you to do this and run a reverse lookup, and they'll give you some instruction on that if you're going to do that. Otherwise, I mean, I don't bother. I find it's distracting. I don't really care what it shows. Brad, when he does his stuff, he talks about reverse lookup, and he's a type 1 diabetic, and he says he's been using Spooky for 4 years, and he's done hundreds of biofeedbacks, and not once has it ever come back and said, you're a type 1 diabetic. You need to do these. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of interesting, but I see it as a waste of time. I think it's a nice marketing ploy, but it really doesn't do that. That's the reason. So it is in there, and some point I may do a presentation on it. Probably not, but that's my view of it. And for the simple version that we're doing now, we're not going to cover it any more than what I just did. Let's see. Continue. Could you please send these steps? Yes. You're gonna, and Julie, one of the things you're gonna get is as I'm recording this, everybody who signed up will get a link to not only the recording, but to this PowerPoint presentation in a PDF, and those steps. I actually created a separate PDF for those, for each one of those. So you'll get access to all that stuff. So to make it easy, because I understand that's what we need to do. Okay. All right. Moving on. Other types of scans. Okay, so one of the things you should do in the near future is this Brad Johnson biofeedback one in Vimeo is it's really good. It's the usual Brad stuff. I love Brad, he's great. Brad is not a bring things down to a simple level person. He's not good at that. So this is a good think of Brad's as biofeedback 101, or with him it may be 201 or 301 back in our college days. This is more, what I'm doing here is more of a biofeedback 051. This is to prepare you for that. I cover the basics, but it does work. All right. So there are other things. There's something called a grade scan. Grade scans are really handy because you get to decide what frequencies it's going to scan, and Brad will cover them, or other things will. And then you can do searches and whatever to find grade scan stuff. And if there's questions about it, I'll try to answer them. But again, I consider that for this presentation an advanced topic. There's hunt and kill. Hunt and kill is really interesting because what hunt and kill does, it goes out and it scans you and gets the frequencies, and then it builds the killing thing and runs the killing. And then it goes back and scans just around the frequencies it found originally, because what happens is pathogens can slightly change their frequency just a little bit and become a little more immune to what you're trying to do. So that's what hunt and kill does. It scans, kill, and it's really good from a long-term point of view. There's a lot of things to do with that, but you sort of have to sit there and be hooked up to do this. So there's, I know people that do it at night, by the way. If you can live with the cables attached to you, that they'll do that. But that's what hunt and kill is. The sample digitizer you've heard about, that's where you can use blood or saliva or some other liquid. Now there is a whole bunch of debate. It's actually the spooky people that themselves say, oh, you can use fingernail filings and put them in water and do that. Most of us in the Facebook group and on the technical side believe that's just not true, because what biofeedback does, it's actually detecting your pathogens. So unless you have a fingernail fungus, that would be in there. But if it's not in there, it doesn't do scanning via through your DNA. It doesn't work that way as far as I'm concerned, and as far as everybody else I know is concerned. It doesn't work that way. So, my view is you're looking at some sort of blood or saliva or urine, but there's another trick to this, and I'll use urine as an example. Urine is actually is sterile. Unless you have a urinary tract infection, it's sterile. And so if you use urine and do it in a sample digitizer, it's not going to find anything because there's nothing to find. It's sterile. You don't have a UTI. And blood is the same way. You can have an infection, you can have an infection in your jaw or tooth or whatever, but that stuff isn't in your bloodstream. It's in the skin or in the area. And so the sample digitizer is not going to help for that either. Now, the sample digitizer is really good for what you can put in it. If you do have a UTI or you have a head cold or you're coughing up stuff or you have a chest problem, that stuff's in your saliva or in your phlegm. It's great for that. It is perfect for that. And that's what you should use that for. And then finally, which is a much more complex deal, the scalar biofeedback. And that's a whole nother matter, and it does a full body scan. But you got to have a scalar for that. And you got to lay pretty still for that. And it takes about 45 minutes. So anyway, those are the other types of scans, and that is the thumbnail sketch of what they are. I'm sure there'll be questions on that, but we'll see where we're going to get. Okay, good. Now we're to the open Q&A part. So in this one, you can ask anything you want. Let me see what's in the chat. The chat says after scan, how many days remote? Okay, the rule of thumb for remote, the treating remote, is you can run for probably about a week, and then you need to do rescanning. Because in that amount of time, the remote is the slowest killing method that Spooky offers. It works, it just takes longer. So it's about a week for that. If you're using contact mode is 4 or maybe 5 days. I'd probably do 4 days. So if I was doing contact mode, what I would do is I'd do the biofeedback scan, and then I do probably 2 contact mode sessions a day. Each one will take 30 minutes. And then after I've finished the 4th day, so maybe at the beginning of the 5th day, I would do a new biofeedback scan and start the process over. Again, because contact is much more powerful than remote. And that's one of the reasons you only do it twice a day and that sort of stuff, but that's that. If you're using plasma is the most powerful, 3 days maximum. You're going to do a scan, you're going to run plasma for 3 days, and you might even consider 2 days, and then you're going to run the biofeedback again, because it'll have made that much difference in that amount of time. Hopefully that answers your question. What other questions do we have? Let's see, if you can unmute, or you can type in the chat, or whatever you want to do. Let's see. Nobody else. We do have some people. Who is unmuted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I've done this is Charlana. I've done the hunt and kill, and I don't recall doing it with TINS pads. I'm pretty sure I did it with some in the sample digitizer with some actual stuff that was coming out of that tumor or bloody stuff. So I don't have any of that anymore, but can you do the hunt and kill with your blood, saliva, or mucus in the sample digitizer?
Yes, absolutely you can.
Okay.
But keep in mind, whatever you put the sample digitizer has to have the pathogens in it you want to kill.
Correct. Okay.
That's the only trick for that.
Thank you.
That's what I want. Okay. We will do speaker down. Okay. All right. So what other fun questions do we have? Why you guys are quiet today?
Hello? How can you scan someone with a pacemaker or heart?
That's a good question. That's actually a very difficult situation. I wish it wasn't, but it is. Because you're not supposed to use the TENS pads on somebody with a pacemaker. And so it's really difficult to do that. You may be able to, obviously, if they have an infection that's blood or whatever related, you can use liquid and use a sample digitizer. So that's one possibility. And of course, an awful lot of people, you're treating chest things and head colds and all that. So mucus and saliva and all that work really well for that. If you're talking about like I had a skin infection in my leg a few years ago, and well, actually, because it was in my lower leg, I don't have a pacemaker, but I would have used personally, I would have used the 10 pads on it because it's far away from the heart. But as far as, putting it anywhere in my torso, I probably would not do that. But, and I don't know whether you can do, I can't remember whether if somebody has a pacemaker, whether you can use a scaler in them. I don't remember that. That's certainly another option if you can, but I can't remember. And obviously to treat someone, remote is the best way is if they have a pacemaker. The other ones, you have to be really careful with that. That's the best answer I can give you. Okay. What else? Let's see. Heart condition can you use plasma? You can use plasma if you have. I'm looking at my. Let's see. So how many days got that? How many scan with pacemaker? Can remote healing be run for a different person when VFB is running? Well, while you're running a biofeedback, everything's gonna be paused, so that's not a problem. But once it's in 20 minutes, or 19 minutes, it's gonna be done. And yes, you can be treating everybody you want in other remotes or other generators. That's not a problem. It's just that everything's paused for those 19 minutes when you're running the biofeedback. But yes, you can treat as many people as you want to, as many generators you have, or multiples in the same generator if you're treating them for the same thing. Heart condition, can you use plasma? Yes, you can use plasma as long as you don't have a pacemaker. So you can use plasma for heart conditions. It's a very effective method for killing, and it does a fair job at healing. So I like it. That's the reason I bought the plasma before I bought the scaler. The scaler is actually better for healing. That's my understanding. But I was, from my point of view, I was more worried about killing stuff, and so I bought it first, and then 6 months later bought the scaler. Let's see. I have a battery generator for essential tremors. Okay. The problem with a battery generator for essential tremors, that means this is an implanted electrical device, I believe, is what you're saying, Ann, and that you have to be very careful with. So you really can't use the plasma for that. You can't use the plasma because the plasma interferes really bad. I mean, now I get into this discussion all the time. Plasmas are what I consider in the RF world as being very dirty. Their purpose in life is to put out this RF radiation. That's what it does. And that can interfere with electronics big time. So I would not use a plasma if I have any embedded electrical stuff. You'd have to be very careful with that, unless somebody says it's okay and nobody's going to say that, because nobody's going to take the responsibility for that. That's the problem with that. Sorry about that. But remote does work. Remote works on everything. I saw on Facebook today, somebody was talking about how they healed their wife or whatever from cancer using nothing but a remote. So you can do that. It just takes longer, and you have to be, you have to stay on top of it. Okay. How to set up 2 remotes and screens at the same time. That's an interesting question, Paul. I'm trying to figure out what you mean. How to set up 2 remote screens. Oh, how to set up 2 remote screens at the same time. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you talking about you have 2 different computers, or you have 2 different remotes on the same computer? Maybe you can type some more stuff in there, or you can unmute and ask me the questions, and I can ask you questions, so I can understand what you're asking. Certainly.
Asking, hello,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm asking, like, I have the Gen X. I just got this. And I've been reading the book and I'm more confused than ever.
That's one of the reasons I do these sessions. Okay, go ahead.
So if I want to run a remote for me and a remote for somebody else.
Yep.
I understand about setting up the first one and the screen is there and all it's running. What do I do for the second one?
Okay. So let me show you. Let's go into here. This is my computer. So I'm doing a killing here. I could go in and say, something fun. I like the DH experimental frequencies, remote, and remove negative energies.
Can't see the screen. There,
Oh, sorry, I forgot to change my sharing. Thank you for letting me, for reminding me. So I want to go into sharing. Sharing. And this one. Share. Okay. Now you should be able to see the screen. Ah, there it is. Yes, you can see the screen.
Yes,
So let's go back here. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to do presets home. I want to DH experimental frequencies. I'm going to do remote because whatever one is remote. I still want to remove negative energies. And then I'm going to go over to my control and I'm going to overwrite the generator and put this in generator 5 because I have 2 generators in my silver generator, or I might have a whole bunch of ones. So I put it in the generator 5. I hit start, and now that's what's running in generator 5. Does that make sense to you, Paula?
yes.
Okay.
What if I then want to see how the other generator 6 is running? If I just click on generator 6, will that bring that screen back up?
Yes, it does. I click on 6, and here's what's running in 6.
Awesome.
They actually, in the new release, there's a way that you can sort of name what's in there, which is kind of cool. Now, one of the things that I haven't shown you, but I will now because it makes a difference. Generator 6 says killing, and that's all it says. What I recommend, and I did a thing on naming in a previous, a couple weeks ago. If I go back and this, no, let's see, that was my mistake. This was in here, settings. No, I need to move this down so I can see my stuff. So this is here. So if I do a stop and I click on this is my killing one. And the way this works, this is in a scratch pad. So it's in a scratch pad right now. I loaded this from the generator. I can go back to presets. And if I would have done this, and I should have done this anyway, and I want to save this. So I want to save this thing that this one, and when let me redo this. We're going to go back, we're going to go in here, we're going to do a shell. I'm going to do remote. If you remember, I did all this before. I'm going to do killing RJW. Then I went into programs and I put in this guy. This is what we did. Then we loaded the generator. And
Right.
generator 6 says killing right now. If I go back to presets, which is exactly what I recommend you do all the time, and then I say, I want to save this thing that I just created. And I use this naming convention where I do the date, let's see, 0719. It is a remote, and this is Mike BFB. So that's what I'm going to call this remote, this preset that I'm creating. I did a save, so it's now saved. Now, if I go here, it'll show my saved one. It's right here. And then I'm going to go load that into generator 6. It's the same thing, but notice up here, it's what I just called it, which really comes in handy. So when you're building something with biofeedback or anything you're doing, you should always save it and give it a name that's meaningful, and then load that into the generator, because saying killing R doesn't mean anything. What if I had 3 other relatives that I was doing killings on them and I couldn't tell the difference? But this one I can tell because it's Mike BFB and the date that I did it. That makes sense?
Thank you so much.
Okay, good. I'm glad that made sense to me. Okay, so what else do we have? Stop the share. Stop my share. Stop. All right, so what other fun questions do we have?
PDF.
PDF, as in
Yep.
a document? You don't know what that
Yes.
is?
No, I just need an address or whatever to download
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so what that means, there's a couple things. Let me go back into my test machine here. So a PDF is a document that anybody can read on anything. That's what it is. So if I go in here under help and hit user's guide, that's going to open the user's guide PDF, which is what this is. And so, because it's got a PDF viewer. And so what's nice about it is whatever they wrote this in, I have no idea. I don't care. That's why they have a PDF of it. And why my checklist that I made to go through the list, you'll have that, and you'll be able to go in there through Chrome or whatever you're using for your internet browser and click on that, and it'll open and it'll show the steps of creating or using the biofeedback data, and you can print it out from there as well if you want a hard copy. Did that answer your question?
Well, went to help, and it brought up all this stuff.
Yeah.
But where was the biofeedback one? Was
Okay,
it
so, no, that's in there. So if we go back to the user's guide, oops, wrong one. What was this? So let me make sure, help, user's guide. So you're seeing the user guide on the screen right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so down in here, it's actually down in here where it says there's lesson 6. So this is a simple guide down here in lesson 6. If I click on lesson 6 generator X feedback scan, this pretty much shows the steps that we did today.
Oh, good.
So, and so it has all kinds of fun things in here, how to run terrain, how to do signal testing, remote mode, all that sort of stuff is in here. So that's one of the ways to do it. Now, it may or may not make sense. I'm not the one who wrote it, so there's a limit to how much I can go. But that's one of the advantages of attending this class first. You'll have some reference points. So hopefully it'll make more sense to you. That's why I do these things.
Okay, now the tins, I know you can do a biofeedback, but can you use it to kill pathogens?
Yes, that's called contact mode.
Contact mode.
And
Okay.
contact mode uses the TENS cables, or you have these metal rods you can hold in your hands. And if you got the complete they have mittens or other things you can put on to hook up to those same cables. That's contact mode. That is what contact mode is. Most people use the TENS pads for.
Oh, do you put it in the same hole that you do for the biofeedback?
You can, if that's what you want to do. But one of the things it says in here, should say here, I haven't looked at this in a while, so. Contact mode. Okay, and let's say where to hook it up. Of course it's not. So let me show you where that is. One of the things you do when you're doing spooky stuff, if we go into presets and then the home, and then we say shell, and then we say contact mode, because that's what we're doing, and then we say killing contact JW. Over here in the notes, it tells you what to do. Should it? Yes. If you want safe treatment, it means you're not going to feel it. Then on your spooky boost, on the top row, and the second one in from the right, there's something that says colloidal silver. You can put it in there, or the one next to it, which is high power. So if you put it in high power and you feel like you're getting electrocuted too much, then you should unplug it from there and plug it into the colloidal silver one. For me, I use the colloidal silver one all the time. It's not that it hurts, but the problem is I grew up initially, I did a lot of electronics work, and I've been zapped a bunch of times, and I don't like the feeling. And so if it's zapping me at all, I get really uncomfortable. And so I tend to use the colloidal silver port more often than not. I'll try the other one, but I tend to use the colloidal silver. Okay?
Sure. Thank
Does that
you.
make sense? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's go back to this. Share. All right. What other fun questions do we have today? Let's see. Do I have any? Okay, let me look at this. Why is it? I'll get to that in a minute. Where are we doing? Okay. Why is it important to use baseline? Okay. Actually, most of the people think you shouldn't use baseline. The comments say you should. I remember when baseline came out, they really liked it. A lot of people thought it was debatable, and I'm not a person that believes that baseline makes a difference. I don't use it. I don't use it most of the time. There are a few things I do. It's a little more advanced that we're not going to talk about here that I do with the scans if I want it to be more accurate or whatever, but I don't use baseline. I just don't use it. And I really don't recommend you do that. And if you have a question, you can unmute and ask me about it. Okay, is there some place on the screen which indicates terrain? Which indicates terrain is done. Oh, okay. Well, yes and no. So what that is, let me go share the screen again. Share. Okay. So here in the, if we go to presets, home, and this is detox, and we're going to do remote. And we're gonna do terrain. And we don't care what. This gives me an opportunity to show you this. If you remember, I didn't select my generator first. So I'm going to put this in generator 5. Notice it didn't work. I clicked on generator 5, it says this. And it lost the fact that I loaded terrain. So that's why you should start in the control. You should pick the generator you want. You should stop the generator. Then you go back to presets. And I still want terrain. R, and I'm going to back to control over our generator, put it in 5, and we're going to start it. Now, for those of you who have run terrain, you know that it runs for 11 days. So the way this works, terrain is actually as a combination, let me go back to presets, of all these presets. And there are a bunch of them. There's actually 15, but some of them only run 12 hours at a time. In this case, this first one is going to run for 24 hours. The second one's going to run for 24 hours, so on and so forth. And 11 days later, it's going to start over. That's what it does, okay? And so is there any way to tell it? The only way you can tell that it's done is when you look up here, it says 1, remove metals, and yesterday it said 11 something. That means it's done. And so you can hit stop or whatever you want to do, or you keep running it, whatever you think you want to do. Most people are ready to move on at that point, which is probably a good idea. And although the general rule of thumb is you should probably run terrain once a quarter anyway. Some people run it once a month. It depends on your situation. One of the things that's interesting about terrain is terrain, every time you run it, it goes deeper and deeper. So if you kick it off and you let it run for 44 days, so it's been 4 cycles, you'll get even more stuff out. And also, the longer you run it, the less herxing you do. So, if you have the herx response, so you feel like you have the flu or whatever sometime in the first run through, the second time it runs through, you probably aren't going to feel it or you'll barely feel it. The third time, you won't feel it at all because it's finally eliminated whatever it's trying to get rid of. Let's go back to, yes, check. Okay, so hopefully that answers that one. That's not what I wanted to do. Stop this. Stop sharing. Let's go look at my chat. All right, so unfortunately, yeah, that's all you can do is you can do that, but I wanted to show you before I do that. Let's go back here, back to you. So while it's running, down here is this preset number, which is in the middle of the screen. And it's under all the list of frequencies. It says the preset it's on. It's on 1 of 15 because I just started it. So it's, that's where it is in the grand scheme of things. And obviously in the name of it, you can tell it's number 1 and number 2 and number 3 as well. So those are the 2 places you can find it. And oh, by the way, suppose you have a power failure and you need to restart it, you can actually go into the preset number, give it a preset and tab out of it and say start, and it'll start from there. Okay. But if you're like me and it's like, well, there's a power failure last night, I don't know which one it was on. I don't remember because I don't pay that much attention, to be honest. There's another thing you could do. Your systems come back, see this little button right next to the start, this little skinny one? That's the resume button. If I click on that, it's going to remember that it was on step 5. So you don't even have to know the number if you know where the resume button is. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Okay.
Are you
Go
gonna
ahead.
show anything on reverse lookup?
I don't want to. I think it's, well, the problem is that I think reverse lookup is a separate topic. And so it's not my plan to do that. Obviously, did he leave? I don't know.
I'm still here. I'm still
Okay.
here.
Obviously, you can do reverse lookup. Let's go into this. Actually, I can do it from here. Yeah. I can go in and I can do reverse lookup, and it's going to take forever. It's going to go search the database for every one of these frequencies in here. That's what it does. Okay. And so, and when it gets done for me, it's not going to find anything. It almost never finds anything. Almost never. So then what you need to do is, I can include harmonics. What a harmonic is if I have a frequency of 1,000, a harmonic of 1,000 is 2,000. And a harmonic of that is 4,000. And so on and so forth. Those are harmonics. And then there's subharmonics. Subharmonics, if I start off with 1,000, it would be 500 and 250 and 125 and so on and so forth. And so if you click on both of those, number one, it takes about 3 times as long to run, to find everything, and it'll find all kinds of stuff. Hey, it actually found some stuff on there. Yeah, it found my BFBs, my biofeedbacks, because that's what's on there. And what it does, see if it's still all about, I have a lot of these things in here. So what it does is if you look in the programs, the things that are check marked here, that's what it actually searches. So, you know, I don't really want to search biofeedback. I don't search it mostly. I'll search this one, this one. Those are my favorites. So let's go back to biofeedback. Do that. Let's look up. What's that? So let's go back to the control tab. Let's do this one more time. It'll be a little faster because it only looked at 3 databases now. And it probably won't find anything. But like I said, I did this for grins. I mean, so look, and you can see in here, oh, got it. Hard to read this. This is a problem with Spooky. But it only looked in these databases, and here's the frequencies it looked for, and it says, nope, it didn't find anything, you're dead. But let's go look at harmonics. Usually that'll add a few things. Usually the subharmonics is what adds a lot of stuff, but we'll go ahead and try it so we can see what it does. Like I said, Brad's view is in the years he's been running it, it's never once said that he has diabetes. See, it didn't find anything, still there. So we will do the subharmonics. It always finds stuff there. Notice it got a little slower when it's doing this because it's doing more frequencies now. But we'll see, you know, what my life expectancy is. Come on. Much slower this time. Oh, see, found stuff. I can't read it, but okay. So, hey, I have chickenpox. I have herpes, marsh fever. That's because I went to the marsh. I mean, so these are frequencies that are subharmonics of this frequency here, which was 1.7 megahertz, is what this was. So it's 1.7 million and a whole bunch of whatever hertz. And so these are things that are subharmonics, which is a you know, of what that is. It didn't find any that actually matched the frequency. But these are all these things in here. And if you like to see that stuff, you can turn all this stuff on. But as I pointed out, my view is, it's interesting, but all I care about is killing the stuff. That's all I care about. And so I find it interesting, but I never use it. I really never use it because I don't believe it portrays an accurate picture of what's going on. That's just what I think. Did that answer your question? Probably not the way you wanted, but.
Well, yeah, it answered some of the questions, especially I didn't know what harmonics and subharmonics meant, and
Yeah, it's fun to play with, Martin. I mean, if you want to go do that, knock yourself out, go ahead and do it, just to see what's there. Like I said, for me, you know, I'm coughing up a lung, I'm feeling sick. I'll use my spit and I'll run that and I'll run a killing and then I go back to bed. I don't really care what it found. It found the frequencies I want to kill. That's what I care about. Okay, so what other things do we have questions on? Thanks. Okay. Any more questions?
Yes. So do you put your spit on the I'm not sure what you call it, but you squeeze it and it comes up with a white top and bottom?
Nope. No, what you do, and I don't have any in here with my stuff in here. So one of the things you got with your GX kit is you have these little plates that are they're white on one side and they have like a black E on the other side. Okay. So you put your spit on the black E on one of them, you squash it together, and you put that into something that looks a lot like a remote, but is not. So it looks like this, but it's not. This is a remote, but it's this clamshell like this, and it's flat inside with 2 little ears in it. You put it in there, get it covered, and that goes on to your generator. Yeah, that goes on to to G1 on the generator, as I remember, or wherever it goes. Well, yeah. So you put that on the generator and you get that, and that is a sample digitizer scan is what you run for that. So that's what you do in that case. If you're using saliva or mucus or blood or whatever else that's liquid, that's what that goes. So it goes in between those two black things, actually two white things, but it goes the black side to black side. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
gotcha.
What else? So while you're thinking of questions, so one of the things I'm doing this again at 9 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. It'll be the same thing I'm doing now, but there'll be different people on it. I record that, and once I've recorded that, then I do a little conversion of the video. Everybody here, everybody who signed up for both sessions will get access to both sessions. And so if you sign up for this one, you get to see them both. So you don't have to worry about attending that because they'll have different questions. That's the way it works. And the question and answer can be really handy to have. So it's nice to have that. So you'll get all that stuff sometime later tomorrow. I'll go out and pull the list of email addresses that people signed up, and I'll send an email to everybody with the links in it.
Oh, thank you.
And the links will actually open up a directory on my Google Drive. And so that'll have the videos in it, and it'll have a copy of the checklist for biofeedback in it for running it and using the biofeedback data. All
Question.
that will be. Yes, Martin.
Can you use the scaler on a person with a one of those heart pacemakers?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I have my doubts, but I don't remember. The scaler, what the scaler does is it takes a frequency and it puts it on both sides and they cancel together. And that's what creates the scalar wave. The problem is it has a tendency to cancel other things out. So I don't know whether it's safe to use for somebody with electronics in their body. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. I mean, you could go do a search in the main group and find out very quickly if you can do that. I just can't remember.
Thank you.
And I don't have any of that stuff, so it's easy for me. And I don't have any friends. Well, I have friends with electronics in it, but I've decided not to test it on them to find out what happens. Guinea pigs.
Well,
So.
I have a Gen X Pro, and then I bought a colloidal silver, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do the colloidal silver until I figure out how to do this.
The silver is
So-
actually really easy to do. So I might do a session on it, but I mean, there's nice videos. It's very simple to do. So that's one of the nice things you can do. You can, no matter what you have in your body, you can do the colloidal silver. You can use that. You can drink it. You can gargle with it. You can do whatever you want. So it's nice to have that, and it's very easy to make. Although, and the other thing that you guys can do, if you have devices in your body that I really like, is you can imprint like holographic stickers. One of the things you'll get in my email that I'll send you tomorrow is there's a link to all of my presentations, and I did a presentation on how to imprint holographic stickers like this one. So I buy these from Amazon. That cost $10 for 1,000. And it's really easy to do it. It's the sort of presentation we did here. It's real easy to do that stuff. I have a sticker on right now because I fell and twisted my knee a few days ago, and so I have a sticker on it for knee pain, and it took care of it immediately. And so I really like them. I use the holographic stickers for all kinds of stuff, and they're perfectly safe to use anywhere. And I like them because they're spot treatments. If I have something throughout my body, remotes are the way to go. But to be perfectly honest, I never even gave any thought to running knee things on a remote. I'm using remote for other things. I made up some stickers. It took me an hour to make 4 of them, and I stuck them on my knee, and they actually stay there even for showers. And so I like them for spot treatment, and that's an example of that.
Do they have something in them?
No, it's just there's metal in that's what makes it holographic. So it's a plastic sort of stuff, and it's got this shiny looking whatever that looks like a rainbow, depending on where that's what holographic is. And so what happens is you actually use a generator and a remote, put the holographic stickers in there and put frequencies in it that way. And that's called imprinting. And then you can use those for whatever.
Oh,
They're
okay.
really neat. And that's what I do for my friends. I mean, if my friends have some sort of problem, I really don't want to dedicate a generator to what their stuff is, but I have generators I just make stickers on. I'll make them some stickers and send them on their way, and they can do that. And that works really well for minor things. I'm not going to cure cancer with it, I can tell you that. Although if I had cancer, I'd probably make some stickers. I'd be sticking them around where the where a tumor was or whatever. I really would. My mother-in-law, this is one of the reasons I bought my Central. My mother-in-law had throat cancer, and she lives 1,200 miles away. There's no way I could treat her, actively. But when I was there visiting, when I travel, and I am this week, I'll take a generator X with me and that sort of stuff, so I can do stuff. I made her some stickers for radiation burns, because she had radiation in her throat and and a bunch of other drugs and all that, but all that was over. But one of the things that happens, it burns the crap out of your throat. I mean, really bad. It's sort of like a 3rd-degree sunburn in your throat. That's the way it is. And so it was really painful. She was taking Tramadol for the pain and all that. So I made her some stickers. I said, I don't know if they'll work for you or not, but I made her the stickers, gave them to her, and she put one a little bit under where it was. And after a couple hours, it made a difference. And the next day, she quit taking the Tramadol because it made that much a difference. It's great.
Oh, wow.
It's great for spot stuff. I really like it for spot stuff. So so you'll have access to all those as well if you want to watch that presentation. I did that one, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, whatever. And so again, the videos will be there, the presentation will be there. There's some PDFs that go with it. It's all there. So and you can always contact me if you have any questions.
Great.
Can I help with anything else of the people that are on the call? Let's see. Thank you so much. How do you stickers on a cat? Okay, the way you use stickers on a cat. Actually, it's easier than you think. The way you do is you take the sticker and you stick it to the inside of the collar and put it back on them. And you get the stickers, and hopefully it's around there. That's the easiest way on a cat. Assuming you don't get bit, scratched, or anything else. But that's what people do on pets. I mean, you can certainly run them in the remote, but if you want to use stickers, stick them to the inside of the collar. And by the way, if you shaved off their hair, the cat would just take the sticker off anyway. So, for pain, how do I copy and paste? Oh. So the easiest way, I put that link on Telegram of this pain preset that I'm using on the coil, because I'm making pain oil, which works amazingly well, works really well. And I'm imprinting coconut oil, but actually I'm using olive oil right now in the one I'm currently doing. And I posted the link on Brad's Telegram group, I think, or in my Telegram group. I don't remember which. And so actually, if you use Telegram on your computer, that makes it easiest. You can download that directly. If you can't figure out that, send me an email or a text, and I can email it to you. And then you just have to copy it into the user directory of the Spooky2 on your Spooky computer, and then you can run it. So that's the way you do that.
Oh, you could share like programs with other people and vice versa.
Oh yeah. Well, the easiest thing is to share a preset because it's self-contained. So you can take a preset that you make for whatever, you could send it to Anne, you could send it to me, you can email it to me. I just have to put it in the correct directory in the Spooky2 computer, and then I can use it.
Do you still have that program you made for your mother-in-law, I think it was you mentioned?
Oh yeah, I do. If you'll send
okay.
me an email and I'll send it to you.
Okay, good, because I have someone like that.
It worked amazingly well. I'm one of my belief of Spooky is I think Spooky works. That's my opinion. But the view is Spooky doesn't work for everything for everybody. Probably that's because I haven't chosen the right frequencies. But that's still the way I look at it. It doesn't work for everybody for everything. But I mean, you know, you buy the stickers for $10, you make them stickers and give them to them. If they don't work, they don't work. I mean, what, you know, you've lost $10, although you still have a whole bunch of stickers left for that particular, and you've invested $10 and you've lost an hour of your time. Actually, it's 5 minutes of your time because you've just put it in there and come back in an hour and you get out and use it. So it's not much to lose. I mean, that's the way I really think about it. And it works really well. Okay, so let's see, thanks for the time. I together that. If you don't have a collar on the cat, you need to get a collar for the cat. If you put a sticker on the cat somewhere, it's coming off. That cat is going to get that off. It'll figure out how to get it off. It won't like it there. So the collar's the easiest way. Certainly you could put it, if the cat sleeps in one place, you can put it in the bed. That's a possibility. You need to attach, but the best results will be somehow attaching it to the cat. Let's see, what else could you do? You could conceivably, if you imprinted oil or something, you might be able to rub that on the cat. Although I wouldn't rub it on my cat. I have a lot of scars. But that's another way to deliver frequencies is in oils, and you imprint stuff like that. You can also imprint water. I haven't had a lot of luck with that, but you could imprint water and feed the water to the cat. You know, use that water instead. So that's a possibility.
Well, and you have to be careful with the essential oils for animals because they can kill them too.
Yeah. So, but that's what I would do is, like I said, I would use olive oil or coconut oil, and I'd imprint that and put it on the cat. That's not going to hurt the cat when they lick it off. You know, that won't be a problem. And if for a cat or a dog, I'd probably imprint some water as well and put that in their water dish. Although my dogs would rather drink out of a muddy puddle anyway. But that's beside the point. So, so let's see, what else? Can you put a coil on the eyelid using healing frequencies? Yes. There's lots of people that use the PEMF coil, which I had one in here somewhere, but I don't know where it is at the moment. Where, you know, they put it over their eye for, you know, if they're working on eye things. And for eye things, it's usually over the eye or next to the eye, and that's the PEMF coil. That's safe to use on your, you know, on your head. Let's see. Oh, the directory where that is actually in C:/Spooky2 / preset collections. Yeah, preset collections / user. That's where that stuff is. So when you go into, let me show you real quick. And share in Sky. When you go into presets and you click on this is everything that's in user. Okay, and that's actually in C:/Spooky2 preset collections user. That's actually where that is. So that's where all those things are. And you can, that's where it saves it. That's easy to get to. You just click on this guy and you're there. So that works really well. That's where all that stuff goes. And I have a nice presentation I did a few weeks ago on naming that you ought to look at as well, because in the past, I used to name things by what it was. This is remote, or this is coil, this whatever. But now I'm helping more people. So now I do it by names. So I have my wife and her sister and my mother-in-law. They have their own subdirectory there. It's still in the same place. It's still in the user directory. And then there's another folder in there for each person. And that's where I put the stuff for that person. And so in the case, if I have somebody else who wants a cancer one, I would create yet another folder and put it in there, because that way I know what I gave to Jane or whoever it was. Okay, so user directory. Okay, covered that question. If you did a preset for plasma and you want to use your cat. Well, the best thing to do. So the question was, if you did something for plasma and you wanted to use for contact, wouldn't you have to create another preset with the same frequencies but for contact? That is the best way to do it. You can take that and like in the case of biofeedback, it's really easy to do. I chose a plasma shell preset. I put my frequencies in. Oh, I want to do a contact one. I'll just choose a contact shell and put the stuff there. But there are cases where, for whatever reason, like maybe you got this preset from me, and so you actually don't have the program that I put in. It's contained in the preset, but so there is a way to change the delivery mechanism in a preset, but that's more than I want to go into in here. If you want to send me an email, I'll send you something for that so you can to see how you do it. And it doesn't work for everything. It works for most things. but
Excuse me,
doesn't. Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
can you put your email on the screen so I can see it?
Yeah, it's on it's in the beginning. It's on the, where am I? Share, and it was in this one, and it's in the first page. So right there. Mike.gossettech@gmail.com. And of course, when you get the emails with the links in it for everything, that's where I send it from. So you'll have yet another thing. And that's my Telegram addresses in here as well, because I have my own channel with only about 50 people in it. So, and I'm pretty good at answering that stuff very quickly. I respond to that the most.
Was that a mistake with the Telegram? It
With what?
said Telegram T dot.
Nope. That's it.
No.
T.me/spooky tech help. That's exactly what it is. If you go into your if you go into Chrome or whatever and type in t.me, it will take you there. It'll open a Telegram and do all that. Okay,
Oh, okay.
that's how that works. So let's go back to the Q&A. Ah, there it is. Now, before I forget, because I tend to, and we'll keep doing Q&A. So after this page, I've got some general training resources. They actually have fixed the Vimeo stuff because it was terrible a few months ago. It's really good now. Your searches work in it. It's got 200 Spooky2 videos. There's good and bad to that because some of them are really old. When I got my scaler, first thing I did is I went out and found a video. How do I set up the scaler? And there was one by John White. Oh, hey, this is the horse's mouth. This is the best way to do this. So I looked at that, and his scaler didn't look like my scaler. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. So then I found another training video on scaler and followed that. So you have to be careful, Spooky, because Spooky doesn't delete anything, and they don't necessarily update anything either. So be careful of that. The Spooky2 videos, it's okay. The Spooky2 Academy, that's where you sign up for stuff. That's where you can find out what the official training. This is not official. What's coming up and sign up for things, and you can go back as well in there and find things. So it works pretty well. YouTube is pretty good, but YouTube is really censoring things and getting worse at that. That's why they're moving to Vimeo, because they can put whatever they want on Vimeo. The quick start guide, that's where that is. The help, we talked about that. And this practitioner, Brad Johnson, he's really good. He works on donations only, by the way, and he supports himself. So donations are important to him, but if you've already spent all the money you have on over the next 2 years on your Spooky, and you really don't have anything, but you really need, I don't know what to do for my cancer sort of stuff. What else can you help me with? Send him an email, and he'll set up a half an hour session with you. So it's not a problem. Don't worry about that. And there is no price. It's whatever you want. And here's some helpful links. The triplet USB cable, which I highly recommend. If you have a plasma, you need one of these. That's what it boils down to. Get one. That's exactly it. If you need a data hub that's better than the one that Spooky gave you, this is a good one. If you have a UPS is a battery backup. So that way, if you're like me, and every now and then your power just goes out for 4 seconds, well, when it goes out for 4 seconds, your computer may shut off. Oh, it's a laptop, it won't. But all your generators will turn off. And so it's really nice to have a battery backup. And this is the APC is a really good brand. You'll spend about $100 for that. There's a mini PC that I use. I have 3 different computers. I have a 12-year-old Windows 7 laptop that I use that has a broken screen. And then I have 2 of these little mini PCs that I use that don't have a screen and don't have a keyboard and don't have a mouse. But I run them from this computer that I'm on right now, which is my office computer, which I don't have Spooky on. But there's ways to remote control that. I did a presentation on that 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's in there as well. You may want to look at that if you're interested in that, especially the Mac people. Mac people don't even want anything to do with Windows, but they have to. But the nice thing is they can run the remote control from their Mac and remote control the Windows PC. So that's covered in that presentation as all. Windows Update Blocker, that's a really nice one. That's so one of the things, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if Microsoft likes to push fixes out And when they push it out, then all of a sudden tonight your system will reboot, and then that means all your spooky stuff stopped. And so if you go through this and put this on, and by the way, I have a presentation on this as well about how to install this thing called Windows Update Blocker, which will actually stop Windows from updating, which is a good idea. And oh, by the way, here's a link for the holographic stickers I talked about. So that's in Amazon. Is this everything? No. That's the closing. Here's my email again. Okay, so let's go back to any questions. Do we have any more questions? I'm really good at answering, well, I'm pretty good at answering emails. I'm really good at answering Telegram stuff. I try to stay up on Messenger. Obviously, I answer a lot of questions in the Facebook group as well, and on the Facebook chats. I'm very active in both of those, but sometimes I get busy and don't pay attention. In some ways, you're better off with email or Telegram or even Facebook Messenger if you want to get my attention. It's a better chance I'll see those first.
I do have a small question. Let me
Uh-huh.
see. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. There is one of those squeeze things like a
Yes.
remote.
Yep.
And it's got 4 brass
Yep.
prongs in it. What's that for?
That's a sample digitizer. So the little black and white things go inside there. They sandwich inside there.
Oh, okay.
That's what those are for.
Okay.
Okay?
Right. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Then I think we are done for this evening. And you guys will get all this information tomorrow evening with all this stuff in it. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
You have a
attending. I
good night.
appreciate it. All right. Everybody take care, okay?
All right.